A desperate invitation. The Oceanic Conservation Foundation's annual gala buzzed with Seattle's elite. The grand ballroom of the Ellsworth Hotel transformed into an underwater dreamscape. Olivia Bennet adjusted her borrowed navy blue dress, feeling simultaneously out of place and exactly where she belonged. As a graduate student in environmental science, she'd earned her spot working the event. But mingling with billionaires and celebrities was hardly her natural habitat. Remember to mention the Coral Restoration Project if anyone asks about current initiatives, Dr. Winters had instructed before disappearing into the crowd, leaving Olivia to navigate the sea of wealth and influence alone. She sipped champagne, slowly, one glass to last the night, watching fish-shaped ice sculptures melt into shimmering pools. The foundation had already raised over $2 million, according to the digital counter displayed above the stage. A good night for the oceans, if not for her social anxiety. Just another hour, she whispered to herself, scanning the room. For anyone who might need information about the foundation's work, that's when she saw him. Thomas, her ex-boyfriend of 8 months, moving through the crowd with practiced ease. He wasn't supposed to be here. He had no connection to environmental causes. During their relationship, he'd even mocked her passion for marine conservation as saving fish nobody cares about. Their breakup 3 months ago had been messy after she discovered his controlling behavior extended to monitoring her phone and manipulating her into distancing herself from friends. The final straw came when he'd tried to convince her to abandon her research position for a job at his father's company where he could keep an eye on her. Now he was walking directly toward her, that familiar smile spreading across his face, the one that once made her heart race but now only triggered alarm. Panic rose in her chest. The ballroom suddenly felt too crowded, the air too thin. Without thinking, Olivia turned to the nearest man standing alone by one of the massive aquarium displays. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice surprisingly steady despite her racing heart. "Would you dance with me? Please, just one dance." The man turned, eyebrows raised slightly in surprise. He was tall, with dark hair swept back from a face that seemed vaguely familiar, though Olivia couldn't place it. His custom tuxedo fit him perfectly. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, dark brown and thoughtful, studying her with curiosity rather than judgment. "I'm sorry to ask so abruptly," she added quickly, glancing over her shoulder to see Thomas still approaching. "It's just, my ex is here, and I really can't deal with him tonight." Understanding dawned in the stranger's eyes. Without a word, he set down his untouched drink and extended his hand. "I believe they're playing a waltz," he said, his voice deep and calm. "Fortunately, that's one of the few dances I know reasonably well." Relief flooded through Olivia as she took his hand, allowing him to lead her to the dance floor just as Thomas reached the spot where she had been standing. "Thank you," she whispered, as the stranger placed his hand lightly on her waist, maintaining a respectful distance while still making it clear they were together. "I'm Olivia, by the way." "Olivia Bennet." "Julian Hayes," he replied, guiding her in a gentle turn that put his back to Thomas, effectively shielding her. "And no thanks necessary. I was looking for an excuse to actually dance at one of these functions. They're typically all business and small talk." As they moved across the floor, Olivia realized why he seemed familiar. Julian Hayes, founder of Horizon Technologies and creator of revolutionary water purification systems. His face occasionally appeared in scientific journals she read, not the tabloids or social media she typically avoided, and she'd just asked one of the wealthiest men in the room to rescue her from her ex-boyfriend. "Sanctuary in the clouds." The waltz ended, but Thomas hovered at the edge of the dance floor, clearly waiting for an opportunity to approach. Julian noticed Olivia's anxious glances and the way her hand tensed in his. "He's not giving up, is he?" Julian observed, maintaining their position on the dance floor as another song began. "Thomas has never been good with rejection," Olivia admitted. I'm sorry to involve you in this. Julian considered her for a moment. There's a private reception area upstairs. I was planning to escape there anyway. These events are necessary but draining. You're welcome to join me until your ex loses interest. Olivia hesitated. Going somewhere private with a man she'd just met, even a famous one, wasn't exactly following safety protocols. Julian seemed to read her thoughts. It's the Penthouse Lounge, he clarified. Security monitored and still technically part of the event space. Several board members will likely be there. I just have private access. Relief washed over her. That would be amazing, thank you. Julian led her discreetly toward a hallway at the back of the ballroom. Olivia noticed Thomas trying to intercept them, but Julian smoothly guided her into a keycard-protected elevator. That was close, she sighed as the doors closed. I really appreciate this. Controlling exes are the worst, Julian said simply, inserting a card into the elevator panel. My sister went through something similar. The elevator rose swiftly, opening directly into a stunning lounge with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Seattle's glittering skyline and the dark waters of Puget Sound beyond. Unlike the crowded ballroom below, this space was peaceful and nearly empty, just two older men in deep conversation near the bar. The foundation reserves this space for major donors and board members, Julian explained, leading her to a quiet seating area near the windows. Since I provided the venue, I have access. The advantage of owning hotels. You own the Ellsworth? Olivia asked, surprised. I thought Horizon Technologies was your company. It is. The hotels are a side investment. He smiled at her confusion. Would you like something to drink? Non-alcoholic options are available. Just water, please, she said, still processing that she was sitting in a penthouse with a billionaire who owned both a tech empire and the building they were in. Julian returned with 2 sparkling waters and sat across from her. So, you work for the Oceanic Conservation Foundation? I'm a graduate student in environmental science at UW, she explained. I'm doing my dissertation on microplastic pollution in coastal ecosystems. Dr. Winters, the foundation director, is my advisor. Important work, Julian nodded. Actually, Horizon has been developing filtration systems that might be relevant to your research. We're testing a new method to extract microplastics from wastewater. Olivia leaned forward, her personal drama momentarily forgotten. Really? The current filtration methods can't catch particles smaller than 20 microns, which is a major gap in prevention efforts. Our prototype is targeting 5 microns, Julian said, a genuine excitement entering his voice. For the next hour, they discussed ocean conservation, technology, and science. Julian listened intently as Olivia explained her research, asking thoughtful questions that revealed a deep understanding of environmental issues. How does someone running a tech empire know so much about marine ecosystems? She finally asked. Julian gazed out at the water visible in the distance. I grew up on the Oregon coast. The ocean was my refuge when things at home were difficult. After my parents' divorce, I spent hours exploring tide pools while my mother worked double shifts. His expression softened with the memory. I promised myself that if I ever had the means, I'd help protect it. That explains the foundation donation, Olivia said softly. It's not just philanthropy, he admitted. It's personal, though I rarely get to talk about it. Most people at these events want to discuss stock options or real estate. I'd much rather talk about tide pools, Olivia smiled. Exactly, Julian replied, meeting her eyes with genuine appreciation. Which is refreshing. They continued talking. As the night deepened, losing track of time until Julian's phone buzzed with a message. The gala is ending, he said, checking his screen. Your ex apparently left an hour ago. Oh. Olivia glanced at her watch, shocked to see it was nearly midnight. I should help with cleanup. Allow me to escort you back, Julian offered, standing. And perhaps, would you be interested in seeing our laboratory sometime? The filtration system prototype is there. It might be useful for your research. Olivia felt a flutter of unexpected excitement. I'd like that very much. As they rode the elevator down, Julian added casually, to be clear, this is both a professional invitation and my somewhat rusty attempt to see you again. Olivia smiled, finding his directness charming. In that case, yes to both. Morning light revelations. 3 days later, Olivia found herself following a security guard through the gleaming headquarters of Horizon Technologies. The modern building of glass and sustainable materials housed Julian's empire, with its main research facility located on the Seattle waterfront. Miss Bennett? The receptionist smiled. Mr. Hayes is finishing a call. He asked if you would mind waiting in his office. Olivia was led to a surprisingly modest office with spectacular water views. Unlike the ostentatious spaces of many executives, Julian's workspace was practical and organized. One wall displayed framed scientific patents rather than awards, while a large digital screen showed real-time data from what appeared to be water quality monitoring stations around the world. She noticed a small worn book on his desk, a field guide to Pacific Northwest tide pools, its pages marked with colorful tabs and handwritten notes. Sorry to keep you waiting, Julian said, entering the room. He'd abandoned the tuxedo for dark jeans and a simple button-down shirt, looking more like an engineer than a CEO. Conference call with our Singapore team ran long. No problem, Olivia smiled, gesturing to the tide pool guide. Light reading? Julian looked slightly embarrassed. Old habits. I still document species distributions when I have time to visit the coast. Completely amateur observations, but I've been doing it since childhood. This glimpse of Julian's passion touched Olivia more than his wealth or success ever could. That's actually wonderful. The lab team is ready whenever you are, Julian said, changing the subject. Dr. Fernandez is excited to meet you. She's read your preliminary paper on microplastic distribution in Puget Sound. The next several hours passed in a blur of scientific excitement as Olivia toured Horizon's Environmental Research Division. The filtration prototype exceeded her expectations, potentially revolutionizing microplastic removal from wastewater. By the time they broke for a late lunch, Olivia's mind was buzzing with possibilities. Your work is incredible, she told Julian, as they sat in his private dining room, eating simple sandwiches rather than the elaborate meal she had expected. The Foundation needs to know about this technology. That's actually why I donated to the gala, Julian admitted. I was hoping to connect with researchers like you, though I didn't expect it to happen quite the way it did, Olivia laughed. You mean you didn't plan on rescuing a desperate graduate student from her ex? It worked out better than my original networking strategy, Julian smiled. Speaking of which, has he bothered you since? Olivia's mood dimmed slightly. Just the usual text messages. Nothing I can't handle. Julian nodded, not pushing the subject. You mentioned your research funding is limited. Would you consider a collaboration? Horizon could provide resources and you'd bring your expertise. A collaboration? Olivia repeated cautiously. Strictly professional, Julian assured her. Though I should admit I enjoy your company, but I respect your work too much to complicate it with personal interests. His honesty was refreshing. I'd need to discuss it with my advisor, Olivia said. There can't be any appearance of conflict of interest? Of course, Julian agreed. Everything transparent and documented. As they continued discussing possibilities, Olivia realized how easily she'd slipped into comfortable conversation with this man who should have been intimidating. Despite his wealth and power, Julian treated her as an intellectual equal. After lunch, they walked along the waterfront path behind Horizon's building. The September afternoon was unusually warm, with sunlight glinting off the water. I grew up in Montana, Olivia shared. I didn't see the ocean until I was 16. A school trip to the Oregon coast. That's when I knew I wanted to study marine ecosystems. What drew you to it? Julian asked. The interconnectedness, she replied thoughtfully. How everything affects everything else. One small change ripples through the entire system. It's beautiful and terrifying. Like most important things in life, Julian observed. Their hands brushed accidentally as they walked, and neither pulled away immediately. The brief contact sent an unexpected warmth through Olivia. I should probably head back to campus, she said, suddenly aware of how much she enjoyed his company and how complicated that could become. Of course, Julian nodded. I'll have my driver take you. That's not necessary. It's on the way, he insisted gently. My next meeting is near the university. As they turned back toward the building, Julian's expression grew serious. Olivia, I'd like to see you again, but I want to be clear about something. My life is complicated. The public attention, the demands of the company. It affects relationships. Are you warning me away? She asked, surprised by his candor. No, he answered thoughtfully. I'm just being honest. I've learned that transparency from the beginning is better than disappointment later. Olivia appreciated his directness. Well, I have student loans that could buy a small island and an ex who thinks we're on a break, rather than actually broken up. Complications go both ways. Julian smiled at that. Fair enough. Dinner tomorrow? There's a small place on Alki Beach that makes the best seafood stew you've ever tasted. No business talk allowed. I'd like that, Olivia agreed, realizing she was stepping onto a path that might change everything, for better or worse. Shadows from the past over the next 3 weeks, Olivia and Julian's relationship evolved with surprising ease. They established a rhythm of evening walks, quiet dinners at out-of-the-way restaurants, and long conversations that ranged from ocean acidification to favorite childhood books. Julian's wealth faded into the background as Olivia discovered the thoughtful, sometimes awkward man beneath the billionaire exterior. When Dr. Winters approved the collaboration between Olivia's research team and Horizon Technologies, they maintained strict professional boundaries during work. But evenings and weekends became their time to explore the growing connection between them. You never talk about your family, Julian observed one evening as they sat on his penthouse balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks. Fall was settling over Seattle, bringing cooler evenings and earlier darkness. Olivia tensed slightly. Not much to tell. Dad left when I was 12. Mom worked as a nurse until she got sick my sophomore year of college. She passed away 3 years ago. Julian covered her hand with his. I'm sorry. It's why I'm so determined to finish this degree, she admitted. She remortgaged our house to help pay for my undergraduate studies. I need to make that sacrifice worth something. From what I've seen of your research, you already have, Julian said quietly. Olivia leaned against his shoulder, allowing herself to accept the comfort he offered. They sat in companionable silence until Julian's phone vibrated with an incoming message. Sorry, he apologized, glancing at the screen. His expression darkened. The Tokyo project has hit another regulatory snag. I need to make some calls. Go ahead, Olivia encouraged. I should get back to campus anyway. I have early lab hours tomorrow. Julian walked her to the elevator, kissing her gently before she left. These moments of affection had gradually increased between them, each one feeling both exciting and natural. The next morning, Olivia arrived at the Marine Science Building to find her advisor waiting with an unusually serious expression. We need to talk, Doctor, Winters said, leading her into a small conference room where the department chair, Professor Hammond, was already seated. What's going on? Olivia asked, a knot forming in her stomach. We received some concerning information, Professor Hammond began, sliding a folder across the table. Regarding your relationship with Julian Hayes and the timing of Horizon's funding for your research project. Olivia opened the folder to find photos of her and Julian walking together, dining at restaurants, even entering his penthouse elevator. Attached was a typed letter suggesting she had used personal relationships to secure research funding, potentially violating university ethics policies. "This is absurd," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "The collaboration was approved through all proper channels. Our personal relationship developed afterward. We know the timeline," Dr. Winters assured her. "That's not the issue. The problem is perception. The anonymous sender threatened to forward these to the Academic Ethics Board and several science publications." "Who would do this?" Olivia asked, though she already suspected the answer. "The email came from an anonymous account," Professor Hammond replied. "But given the personal nature of the photos—" "Thomas," Olivia whispered. Her ex had been increasingly hostile in text messages after seeing a photo of her and Julian at a research symposium on a colleague's social media. "He's trying to discredit my work." "We're not taking action against you," Dr. Winters clarified, "but we need to address this before it escalates. The department can't afford negative publicity that might affect other funding." Olivia felt sick. Her research, her mother's legacy, was being threatened because of Thomas's vindictiveness. "What do you suggest?" she asked quietly. "Transparency," Professor Hammond replied. "A formal disclosure of your relationship and recusal from specific funding decisions, and perhaps some distance from Mr. Hayes during the project's initial phase." Olivia nodded numbly. "I understand." She spent the day in a fog of anger and anxiety, unable to concentrate on her lab work. By evening, she had made a difficult decision. She would have to distance herself from Julian to protect her research and reputation. When she arrived at his penthouse that night, Julian immediately sensed something was wrong. "What happened?" he asked, guiding her to the sofa. Olivia explained the situation, showing him the photos Thomas had sent to her department. Julian's expression hardened. "This is harassment. We should go to the police." "And say what?" Olivia asked tiredly. "That my ex took photos in public places? They were invasive but not illegal. Besides, involving law enforcement would just create more attention, exactly what my department is trying to avoid." "Then let me handle it," Julian said, his voice taking on an edge she hadn't heard before. "I have resources, connections—" "No," Olivia interrupted firmly. "That would only prove Thomas right, that I'm using your influence for personal benefit." Julian ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "So we just let him manipulate the situation? Let him control your career and our relationship?" "I need to handle this myself," Olivia insisted. "And I think we need to take a step back, just until the project launch is complete." "You're letting him win," Julian argued, standing up to pace the room. "I'm protecting my research," Olivia countered. "Everything I've worked for is at stake." Julian stopped pacing, his expression softening as he looked at her. "I understand professional integrity, I do, but don't push me away because of his threats." "It's not just about Thomas," Olivia admitted quietly. "This whole situation has made me realize how different our worlds are. You can solve problems with money and influence. I can't." "Is that how you see me?" Julian asked, hurt evident in his voice. "Someone who throws money at problems?" "No," Olivia sighed. "But your life comes with complications I'm not sure I'm equipped to handle." Julian sat beside her again, taking her hands in his. "Olivia, every relationship has challenges. Ours might be unusual, but that doesn't make what we're building any less real." She looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there. "I need time to figure this out." "I won't pressure you," Julian promised. "But I'm not walking away either. Whatever you decide about us, let me at least help protect your research. Not with money or influence, with information." "What do you mean?" "Thomas isn't the only one who can gather information," Julian said. "Let me make some inquiries, ethically and legally. If he's trying to manipulate your career, perhaps there's a way to demonstrate his pattern of behavior." Olivia hesitated, then nodded slowly. Just be careful. He enjoys creating chaos. Trust me, Julian said softly. Some battles are worth fighting. A dance of their own, making. A week passed, with minimal contact between Olivia and Julian. Just brief professional exchanges at the research facility. The distance was necessary but painful for both of them. Olivia threw herself into her work, finalizing the research protocols for the filtration system testing while trying to ignore the hollow feeling in her chest. Thomas had grown bolder, sending messages implying he had more damaging information to share if Olivia didn't meet with him. She blocked his number but remained anxious about what he might do next. On Friday afternoon, as Olivia was leaving the lab, Dr. Winters called her into her office. "I received some interesting communications today," her advisor said, closing the door. "First, a formal letter from the University Ethics Committee clearing you of any potential conflicts of interest." "That's good news," Olivia said, relief washing over her. "Indeed. But even more interesting was this." Dr. Winters slid a folder across her desk. "It seems your ex-boyfriend has been quite busy." Inside were documents showing Thomas had attempted similar intimidation tactics with 2 previous girlfriends, including one who had filed a restraining order against him. There were also records of him being placed on academic probation during his MBA program for ethical violations. "Where did this come from?" Olivia asked, though she already suspected. "The university's legal department received it from an attorney, representing several women with similar complaints," Dr. Winters explained. "Apparently, your situation prompted others to come forward. The pattern of behavior is clear enough that the university has decided to ban him from all campus properties, as a precautionary measure." "I don't understand," Olivia said. "How did this all happen so quickly?" Dr. Winters gave her a knowing look. "I imagine certain resources were made available to help these women document their experiences, resources that might be connected to a particular tech CEO. "Julian," Olivia whispered. "He never interfered with the ethics investigation," Dr. Winters assured her. "He simply made it possible for these other women to tell their stories, stories that needed to be heard." That evening, Olivia found herself standing outside Julian's penthouse, heart pounding as she waited for the elevator doors to open. When they did, Julian was standing by the windows, gazing out at the darkening sky. "You helped those women," Olivia said without preamble. Julian turned to face her. "I put them in touch with a good attorney. They did the rest." "You respected my boundaries," she continued, walking toward him. "You found a way to help without taking over or controlling the situation." "You asked me to be careful," Julian replied simply, "and to respect your independence. I tried to do both." Olivia stopped in front of him, close enough to see the uncertainty in his eyes. "Thank you for understanding what I needed, even when I wasn't sure myself." "Does this mean you're no longer keeping your distance?" Julian asked cautiously. "It means I've been thinking about what you said, about every relationship having its challenges." Olivia took a deep breath. "I was afraid of the complications your life brings, the attention, the differences in our backgrounds, but this past week showed me something important." "What's that?" Julian asked softly. "That being apart from you is harder than facing those complications together." She reached for his hand. "I'm not interested in your money or influence, Julian. I'm interested in the man who loves tide pools and believes in protecting the oceans. The man who respects my work and my independence." Julian's expression softened. "That's good, because that's the only man I know how to be." He pulled her gently into his arms, and Olivia felt the rightness of being there. "I've missed you," he admitted quietly. "I've missed you too." She looked up at him. "But we should probably establish some ground rules going forward." "Such as?" Julian raised an eyebrow. Complete honesty, even about difficult things, Olivia began. Professional boundaries when we're working together, and, she smiled, regular escapes, to look at tide pools. Those terms are acceptable, Julian agreed solemnly, though his eyes sparkled. I might suggest one addition. What's that? Dancing, he said, reaching for his phone to start a soft melody playing through the penthouse speakers. I believe we still owe each other at least one more dance. Olivia laughed as he pulled her into a slow waltz, moving together in the dimming light with the Seattle skyline as their backdrop. You know, she said thoughtfully as they turned, that first night at the gala, I was just looking for a temporary escape. I never expected to find— What did you find? Julian asked, his voice low. Olivia met his gaze, no longer afraid of the depth of feeling she saw there or the answering emotion in her own heart. Someone who sees me clearly. Someone worth dancing with. Julian's smile was warm as he drew her closer. Then let's keep dancing. As night fell completely over the city, they continued their dance, creating a rhythm entirely their own, one that acknowledged their differences while celebrating the unexpected harmony they had found together. Outside the waters of Puget, sound reflected the city lights, a reminder of the vast interconnected world that had brought them together and the future they might build, one careful step at a time.